on Tuesday because they're studying the Stone Age. And of course, the kid says to me, Papa, what do you know about the Stone Age, right? I said, now, wait a minute. I said, I'm not that old. But she said, no, that's not what I meant. And I said, no, I get it. But so they don't use, when they're speaking about time, they don't use the terms BC and AD anymore.
That's correct.
And so Charlotte says, so it was a million BCE. And I said,
What does BCE
I says,
mean?
what's BCE? And she says, before common era. And I said, before current era, you're right. Sorry, you're right. And I said, well, I said, let me tell you something. I said, I'm 77 years old. And for 77 years, it's been BC, which is before Christ. And I said, till the day I die,
It's BC.
I am going to say BC. And I said, no one, and I mean no one, is going to tell me how to speak English. And I said, I don't care who it is. She says, well, she says, tomorrow you can talk to my teacher about that. And I said, yes, I will.
It's all about atheists taking Christ.
Yeah.
First time I heard that term was in Israel.
Of all places to hear it.
And the guy says,
Of all places to hear it.
the term is, the name we use is BC.
Well, sorry, not going to be, so anyway, well, I got the teacher, all right?
Did Christ get all of publicity?
So I got the teacher, though. You'll like this story. So this is where my 6 years of Latin actually comes in handy. You know, you never get to use this stuff. So I'm having a discussion with the teacher, Mr. Selesky, and he said, well, Mr. Chase, I have to tell you, I said, listen, I said, you do what you want, you say what you want, but if my granddaughter wants to use the term BC, she's going to use it. All right? I said, and I said, if there's going to be a problem about it, I said, I will talk to the superintendent of schools. I said, because you're not going to tell people how to speak. So he says, so I looked at him and I said, and for,
Can you hand me that, Mike?
for modern terms, I said we use the term AD.
Did you use dead end?
No, but it's blinking and there's no lines.
Uh,
I mean,
and-
it's like,
Well, I gotta give you a new battery.
I know that. but
So
I'll
I
just use the
said,
other
so
one.
I said to the teacher, I said, do you know, I said, and of course you know what AD means. He says, yeah, after death. I said, no, it's Latin. It's Anno Domini. I said, and it means in the year of our Lord. And he just looked at me like, how did you know that? And I said, so, I said, you're not even familiar with the terminology. And I said, and you're telling people how to speak? I said, I don't think so.
That's all right.
Yeah. So.
All right.
I was upset, and that's what they're telling the kids. And I said,
Well, there's a lot
Nope.
of stuff they're telling the kids.
Nope.
Glenn was helping Adia with her
Nope.
homework, and he said he couldn't believe that built into all of the homework was women's rights
oh yeah,
and DEI.
absolutely, it is, absolutely.
Glad I'm not on the school committee. I think I'd have heart failure.
And I correct them because we
acid reflux would
we
be
go over
worse.
the homework with the kids, and I correct them, and I tell them that's not accurate, it's not true. And I said, and if the teacher gives you a hard time, you come back and you tell us. And I said, we will address it with the schools. I said, I'm not putting up with that stuff. Sorry. You want,
Picture on Facebook, I'm
Yep.
gonna so.
you're not?
Everyone ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, you're framed up in the shot. Turn your microphones on, then I'm gonna.
Right, the monitor's not on.
Well, it's on, but it's not.
It is.
Well, beautiful moon out there, if
Yeah.
you can figure out how you switch your cameras around to
It's on, but we're not on the
the
monitor.
north,
I don't know where the moon is, where's the moon?
over that way.
It's up in the sky, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's full, it's beautiful,
Oh.
because it's so clear.
Where's the control point?
I don't know, was Alice Cramden on the moon?
Live. See, rooftop.
Well, my microphone is flashing.
Yeah, his is blinking too.
So just swap with the next.
Just put the, I'll use,
Yeah.
No one's saying when it dies, it dies.
it's all right. We'll use the other one.
And then he can play.
I'll shut that one off. I said, I'll shut that one
Up.
off.
Yeah, it's over the Rogers School to the left,
You have to hold it to shut it off? There we go. Okay.
up to the left somewhere. It's kind of green.
All right.
Well,
Maybe it's time for a new monitor. Well,
Kid.
oh my gosh, we're going to start the show all over again because we were talking and the mics weren't on.
What kind
I'm
of
hoping the mics are on now.
what kind of music was playing?
The theme song under the show, Ralph
Oh,
Finaro
okay.
created a musical memory. I liked it. I said, can I use it for the show? And he said, yeah. So I've been using it for years.
Well, then,
Well, we were sorry that you couldn't hear the first part of what we had to
there's
say.
8
It was
minutes.
wicked good, too.
There was eight-
Everyone was telling dirty jokes and everything.
There's
Well, yeah,
eight
right.
minutes. They didn't have to listen to us. Maybe that was a gift. I don't know.
I don't know, or maybe it was a rehearsal. This is an unscripted show. We don't, the only thing that we may determine is what we want to talk about, but then sometimes in the past, I send out a lot of articles, so we're all on the same page. I don't send out topics so that people have to research it. It's up to them if they want to my co-hosts or guests want to research any of those topics. But generally speaking, I send out the articles. We're all on the same page, no pun intended. And then we can talk about whatever it is if people have read the articles. So one of the articles that I made a comment about was that Google is going to create or set up their own nuclear facilities to generate power for all their data centers. I'm oversimplifying. There's a lot of information out there. And my summarization would be take a look at it and see what you think. Nuclear power is carbon neutral. Because there isn't any carbon involved in it.
There's no, it's a steam plant, Ev. It's a steam, call it what it is, it's a steam plant.
That's true, but it's the...
Well, they make believe it's nuclear, it's a steam plant.
Well, they said it was nuclear in the article, so you can tell me how you define that.
The heat generation is by nuclear reaction, so the point is they don't burn any fossil fuels. But you're right, it is, nuclear power plants are steam. That is correct.
They heat the water.
Right, exactly.
But the, whatever it is that Google is doing, they're doing it because as we get more and more artificial intelligence and more computers, they need more and more energy. And
now let me ask you about this, because I'm sorry I didn't read the article, so I apologize. But where are they going to site the nuclear plant?
I don't know if the article said that. I was just...
Because to establish a nuclear power plant in the United States is probably about the most bureaucratic exercise, and it takes years and years and years because it is highly regulated.
Google will do it.
So it'll take them a while to do it, and the regulatory process
There's the moon, kiddo.
is very strict.
Nice.
So that's a good question to find out. Where are they putting it? Maybe it's going to go in a foreign country, like...
No, they're in the United States.
Okay.
They're partnering with Kairos Power to back the construction of 7 small nuclear reactors in the U.S. It's the first of the kind.
It's going to take a while for them to do that.
Well, they said the first one should come online by 2030.
Yeah, that's probably optimistic even, because that's assuming they can get all their, clear all the permits.
Well, they are working with reactors created by this company in a nuclear energy startup, and they're different from most of the towers that people think of when they conjure up the image of a nuclear reactor. And it uses a molten salt cooling system, and it said that there's one on the campus of Abilene Christian University. I didn't look it up, but it does I think the whole thing is interesting. It said it works at a lot lower pressure. So they're saying that they're in Tennessee, or at least one is in Tennessee.
Well, that makes sense.
So it is in this country, and...
There are still reactor plants generating electricity in this country. I mean, people have been trying to shut them down for 40 years, but, it's... There are some that still function, so...
So, and this article was from Yahoo Finance. It's not Fox News. So I'm certainly sure Fox may pick up on it. But a lot of times what's interesting is if I listen to that other news program after this program, there's a lot of stuff we talk about on this program that they talk about afterwards. It's almost like they're listening to
Are
what
they
we're
listening
saying.
to us?
I don't think so.
I
We're
don't.
not that, I
think
haven't
so
got that kind
either.
of an ego.
No.
But anyway, the planners for everything expect that because of what the big strain will be on the power grid with regard to all these data centers that they have, that they're at least offering an alternative and a solution to what their situation might be.
So, in other words, sanity is returning. I hope so, because we as a country, we have completely missed the boat on nuclear.
Well, I think we've missed a boat on a lot of things,
Yeah,
but we're
I
not going to
agree.
go into all the details
Yeah.
with regard to that. But I thought that was interesting that we're going to begin to now maybe take a look at that. Now, in the same kind of thread that I could weave here is in terms of climate control, is there was another article that was out, and I have been trying to get Phil Jones to respond to me. We had Phil Jones
Good luck.
on, well, he did before, and hopefully he's okay, because he has had some health issues, I
Well,
think.
according to my source, who was quite close to Phil, he's doing fine, so
Did you try getting him on your show?
I did, and I spoke to this other person and said, when you're talking to him, can you have him give me a call? And that hasn't worked.
Well, when he was here, we didn't talk about politics or anything, I would assume, that would cause an issue.
Oh, no, you talked about...
Want to get the information out about farming and about organic
Right.
Approaches to things.
Stuff that he is knowledgeable in and interested in. So,
Right,
I mean,
because-
we spoke to him after the show, and he was quite pleased to be on the show and have that discussion, so...
Well, maybe it's the first hour when we talk about politics, and they're assuming that he is connected somehow with that, which is unfortunate.
No need in guessing. He has a cell phone. You tried to call him.
Right.
He blew you off to voicemail.
No,
Leave it there.
well, I mean, I've been texting right along.
That's all you can do.
All I asked for the last
He's
time.
ghosting you.
Can't force
All
people
I
to call
asked
you
for
back.
the last time I texted was, just let me know what
okay.
your sources are.
It's
You don't
okay.
have to come on. I just want to be able to promote what it is that you had said when you were here. Now I don't have to. Now I have connections with what was on Google. So there was an article on Google. Did you read this one? About the fact that they're doing research on the farms that have been
Yes,
organic.
I did read that one.
And they're also able to identify why they are better in terms of the organic farming. It has to do with organic fertilizers, like cow manure, horse manure, chicken manure, whatever it might be. Cow manure was what my father had used when he grew up on a farm in northern Indiana. I think at one point I read, and if somebody's out there, please let me know, I read a long time ago that chicken manure was the best.
Yes, when I was a teenager, I worked on 2 farms, and that was the consensus back then, that they called it hen manure, but chicken manure is the same thing. I don't know how they know that the manure only comes from the female chickens, but...
Because most of the time they only have chickens that lay eggs, they don't have the roosters.
Hen manure, and the farmers all said that was the best. In fact, one of the farms I worked for, they sold hen manure in bags.
La-dee-da.
Yeah, they did. They sold it, and the people in the town would use it for their gardens and so forth. So,
There's a couple of things you can
Yeah.
do, because there was someone, and I'm going back into childhood, like before I was a teenager, that had chickens, but when they wanted to use it as manure, they had a huge 40-gallon drum that they filled up with water, and then they drew the water off, rather than putting the poop
Yeah,
directly
that
into
makes,
the soil.
that makes
so
sense.
that was something I thought was of
Yeah,
interest.
that makes sense.
But anyway, in the article, and again, this again is from Yahoo, in the technical part of it, and the title is, Researchers Make Stunning Discovery After Examining Farmland Treated Only with Organic Fertilizers for Decades. And their conclusion is this is going to help us move forward. And it's amusing to me.
why is it stunning? I mean, I wasn't surprised when I read that.
It's
I mean,
just a fabulous word to use in the media.
Yeah, well, it's whoever the editor was, and they have to get
Incredible,
something to...
stunning.
They have to get something to catch your attention.
Gee.
And so they are doing an analysis to find out why. And basically, it's because in the soil, which is what Phil Jones told us, is that it captures more of the carbon
Right.
in the soil,
Right.
and it takes it pretty much out of the atmosphere. And so there is a nice balance or equilibrium that's going on with regard to that particular topic. And so
Makes sense.
it's a little bit more scientific and all the different things in this particular article. And the article and the results were published in the Soil Science Society of American Journal. I didn't even know they had a journal that was the Soil Science, but
never heard of it.
no, I was into the American Chemical Society, and they have a whole lot of divisions, just like the Institute for Electrical and Electronic Engineers has a whole lot of subsets that's underneath them, including what Glenn was in was the microwave one. Then you have computers.
How shocking, no
Yeah.
pun intended.
Anyway, it's kind of interesting. So, they're doing all of this research, and they wanted to figure out how to do the soil carbon storage. So they have scientists out there that are trying to figure out, how do you take the carbon out of the atmosphere? Guess what? You can, without having too much going on, as long as you use organic fertilizers
Yeah.
instead of all of the chemical stuff
And
that's...
without having to use chemicals.
Right, and a
Yeah.
lot of the chemicals that they use end up in your food, and that's
Oh,
some of
yeah.
the problems that they have when we're talking
Well, you
about...
remember when we were kids, Evelyn, they used to say, "You are what you eat," right?
Well, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Well, one of the things that always amazed me was when I used to visit my sister in Florida, you drive along and there's all kinds of farms, small ones, large ones, and they use what they call non-potable water. Well, if you can't drink it, why are you putting it in the vegetables? So
Good point.
that didn't make any sense to me. But there's nothing like a homegrown vine-ripened
But to your
tomato.
previous point, they're putting manure on the food, so,
I think one of the
Right.
real problems is plastic.
is what?
Plastic.
Plastic.
They're
Yeah.
finding plastic in breast milk now.
I think you're right.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of, because
that's right.
the things are so small, the nanoparticles.
And plastic is forever. I mean,
And we're
that
being lied to about
never goes away.
recycling. Recycling's not happening to the degree we imagine it is.
Oh, I agree with you there. Do you remember when you were growing up that we used to have paper drives?
Oh, yes.
So we had a youth group
And
at
bottle
church.
drives.
Well, we didn't do bottles.
Yeah, we had bottle drives.
But we had a paper drive, and people would save their papers
Yep.
all year long.
Yep.
Glenn has experience with this too because of his involvement with
I
DLA.
remember that very clearly.
And so I remember doing the paper drives
Mm-hmm.
when I was in the youth group at the church I went to in Quincy, Mass. But anyway, I thought that environmentally, that was pretty cool. And
Well, we're our own worst enemy. And, John said something a minute ago, which I actually heard being discussed at town hall. Okay, so the town and all the towns and cities around have been doing recycling for a long time because the idea is twofold. Number one, it's good for the environment, and number two, if you put stuff into the recycling stream, it takes it out of the trash stream, and that's what you're charged on. So the recycling is supposed to be done at no extra charge. So if you can take that tonnage out of your trash stream, you lower your waste disposal bill. So that has been going on for years. But I've heard, to his point, to John's point, I've heard over the last year or two discussions by the folks in town hall who know how this stuff works because they administer the program. They're saying what you said, not all of this stuff winds up in the recycle stream. When you put it out, you put out 2 bins of recycling, well, that may not all be recycled, okay? I mean, this is what, and these are the people who run the program are saying, this
So,
is not working the way it's supposed to be working, right?
Can our town or our city
Yeah.
bring an action against the recycling company for taking our money and not doing what they promised?
Well, that's a good question.
how it's written in the contract.
It is, and you'd have to prove it. I mean, so it would
So
require.
you follow the stream,
follow
follow
the
the trucks,
Well, you'd have to have somebody, do that. But
we need some
call the
investigation.
state police.
yeah,
Hey,
I don't
get
know.
investigative reporters, without having them
They don't exist anymore.
yeah, I understand that. What I was going to say, without having to get into the
And it
political
could be,
aspect of it.
and I'm just speculating, so I probably even shouldn't say it because I don't have any proof. But I would guess if that's happening, it's got to be cost driven. So I would say that the trash processing people probably at some point, if this is happening, have determined that it costs them money to handle the recycling the way it's supposed to be handled, so they dump some of it into the trash because it's, I've been in business long enough for 43 years. Most things are driven by cost. That's usually the first consideration when you're trying to set up your business model. And so when your costs increase, there's only so much of that you can pass on to your customer. You have to find ways to reduce your operating costs. So again, I'm just speculating. I have no idea, but that's where I would look first if I were doing an investigation into this. what's going on and why are they doing this? And it's probably to reduce their operating costs.
Again, you gotta take a look at the contract, and,
Yep.
and you talked about tonnage, and basically whatever all the waste is, okay, that's the tonnage,
Yep.
and at the recycling, it takes it out of that and lessens it. But
Yep.
we still have to be paying for something, because I don't think it's
Right.
government subsidized.
Oh, no, it isn't. No,
And it's
we're paying the full,
unfortunate.
we're paying the full cost of whatever
Right,
it
but it
is.
is unfortunate that they haven't figured out, because you can make a recycling of plastic, what do I want to say, a positive outcome financially, a financial positive. They have made bricks from the plastic, and then they can build buildings. And they're not heavy-duty stuff because you need some other kinds of supports. But they have been able to do things like that, and there's no reason why they can't. They've been able to, instead of asphalt, they've been able to make streets with it, because it's not going to go anywhere. And so when you take a look at the different products that can be a result of recycling just the plastic, then I don't understand why they're not doing more of it. Probably because nobody has
They
figured
haven't-
out how to make it really
Well, first there has to.
financially
Well,
beneficial
there has
for
to
them.
be, first, there has to be, nothing gets done
Free.
under private capitalism unless there is a market for it, okay? So first there has to be or at least the perception that there's a market for it. It's not going to happen. The only way stuff happens that isn't market-driven is if the government forces it, okay? So, I don't know. I don't know enough about that.
Well, I
but-
think,
yeah.
to my point, if we're paying for a service for street sweeping and they're not doing it, why do we keep paying that company?
We shouldn't.
So if we're paying for a service for recycling and then not recycling to our satisfaction, why do we keep paying them for it? And should we ask
think-
for our money back?
I think it's worth looking into.
Well, maybe what I should do is to pursue whoever's on the recycling in the town hall and see if I can get them to come in. Because I did approach that.
That's a good
them
idea.
A few years back.
Yeah.
And we used to have your recycling guy come, Gunther, until he.
Gunther, he was great.
Oh, yeah, and then he left.
Where did he go?
He went to Haverhill, and then they got him, he's back at Lowell now, but they
Oh.
didn't give him he's not, the city authorities did not put him back in recycling,
So he's doing something else?
but Gunther, nice man. And he got us going off in a good recycling direction.
Yeah.
And I think administration, town, and city know we're getting ripped off about recycling.
Well, it's too bad because, 40 years ago, this was the whole thing. And it was hard to get the recycling program started.
And
because
Gunther is just plain too honest of a guy.
Well, where we have the house in New Hampshire, they tried in that community to do recycling. For whatever reason,
Didn't
it
work?
didn't work for them. However, what I do is I have a separate bin, just like I have in Chelmsford, for recyclables, and I bring them back to Chelmsford to put what we've used into the recycling in Chelmsford, so that it doesn't get in some landfill someplace in northern New Hampshire.
Well, thank you, goody two-shoes.
Well, I'm just
So
telling
you
you,
bring
that's
your
what,
trash home with you.
oh, no, not the trash, the recycling.
Recycling.
Because in wintertime, we bring our trash home, throw it in the dumpster.
Yeah, well, you have a dumpster, I don't
It's
have a
just
dumpster.
easier.
So if I had a dumpster,
You got
can
a
I throw
dumpster,
my
get out
trash
of
in your
market
dumpster?
basket. Get out of market basket, we'll right around the back, whip it in the dumpster.
No, they got, no, no.
If they catch you, you're in trouble.
Oh, really, what are they gonna do? No coupons for you.
Well, anyway,
Well, technically, it's a trespass. They can have you arrested.
No, you're returning goods you purchased from them.
If you put something in a store dumpster legally, that's a trespass, and they can have you arrested and prosecuted.
so the other thing, when we're
Okay.
talking about where does some of the stuff go, there are countertops for kitchens that are made out of glass.
Really?
Yes, and you can see pieces of all the different colors of glass I don't like those countertops.
I've never seen
But they
one.
do offer
So
recyclable
where did you see this
materials.
countertop, Evelyn, so we can go here?
Is it
HGTV?
expensive?
I don't know, I didn't look into it.
HGTV.
Yeah, Home and Garden Television.
Television, yeah.
Never
Okay,
heard
so
of it before
I
today.
saw that when they were doing different projects because they wanted to make the different houses more green. And so they were using recycling materials in the products, or they were buying products that had recyclable materials in them. And there's a lot of stuff that's like that. You can take all those plastic water bottles, and if you have large potted plants, instead of putting rocks in the bottom for drainage, you can put those plastic bottles in there. They're not gonna go anywhere, and they provide the same
I actually
same
know,
situation.
I actually know people who do that.
My sister did that, and I
Oh.
was like, what are you doing? And she
Yeah.
goes, I'm not gonna buy rocks, I use the bottles.
Yep, I know
Might as well
people who do that.
Recycle them in, because she has some, well, she used to have some big potted things that she had on her lanai, absolutely gorgeous. She can grow almost anything, but she would put those in the bottom.
Well, my wife Ellen, she pulls apart new baby diapers and puts that in her plant mix.
Puts it where?
In the plant mix.
In the plant
In the
mix.
dirt.
What does that do?
It requires less watering.
Because it acts like peat moss.
All right, that makes sense. Yep.
Because it's
okay.
absorbent.
Yep.
So the other thing that they used to
Is that
put,
cheaper than peat moss?
Well, it's
Maybe it works better than peat
it's
moss.
easier.
yeah, it's faster.
Maybe
I
it
don't know,
works.
It's
Pete.
lighter.
Where does Pete live?
Good
PEAT.
old peat moss.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stories, but I'm not gonna get, I'm
Well,
not going down
that's a
that
good
rabbit hole.
solution if you have babies around and have easy access to the
Right,
diapers.
well,
And
I
once
guess.
they change size, what are you going to do with the little dinky ones you have?
Donate them to the Wish Project.
Package is open.
Donate them to the Wish Project, see what they wanna do with it. Anyway, the other thing
Dumpsterized.
that they used to use was styrofoam. Well, like perlite, and they would put that in mixtures of dirt to start seedlings. You know,
Yeah, I've heard
for
that.
seeds.
Well, across the street at the Rogers School, there is a small program where they want your white styrofoam. And
What do they do with
use
it?
in art class.
Oh,
Oh, they
okay.
carve it.
That makes sense.
And they also want large chunks. It isn't like you want you to drop it off, but I mean, if you have a big piece of cardboard, they want it. And they use it for art.
Well,
But
they
I
have a
think
lot
it's
of
a good idea.
cardboard.
yeah.
I usually take the cardboard and I use that to start fires in the fire pit.
Oh, I use our cardboard. I save it and I use it for many things.
And a lot of times
Yeah.
we're recycling it, but if they're not gonna be using it, I might as well burn it. And then I take the ash and I put it on my compost pile. And then that adds a whole, we're making the cycle come back.
So do you return your cans and your soda cans and bottles to the store?
No.
My wife does.
I do.
Sometimes I do, but I don't
do.
drink soda, generally speaking. So if I'm going to return something, I might be returning, in a month, 12 cans. I'm thinking about crushing them all and starting to, because they're aluminum, starting to save them for the guy that does the metal
Oh, just put them on
recycling.
the sidewalk. They'll take them.
Though they can be recycled too, but
In
the
Lowell,
thing,
they have guys riding around on bicycles collecting them in front of you.
Well, yeah,
Well,
they're all nickels.
because they're nickels. I mean, see, I'm just old enough and I was brought up with this mentality. So when you throw away your recyclable bottles, you wouldn't stand at the corner and throw nickels into a
No,
trash can.
that's my theory, Sam.
All right.
I'm with you.
But I don't-
So,
we don't-
but apparently some people would do that, but, so I fill a 32-gallon, I have a separate 32-gallon trash barrel just for that, and about every 6 weeks, it's full, and I go back to Market Basket, and I get usually somewhere between $7 and $8.
Yesteryear,
And that money goes into a savings account for my grandchildren, and I've been doing it since Charlotte was 2, and I have about $1,200 in that bank account, and that is totally from the return. So, you know what? It may be nickels, folks, and even in today's inflated dollar, $1,200 is nothing to sneeze at. That's not a bad little sum. Okay, so,
yesteryear, I had a friend at Victory Supermarkets.
I remember Victory Supermarket.
She gave me the cardboard thing. It's a big, tall thing that your recycles go in. So you put a garbage bag inside the cardboard
Oh,
thing.
I get you.
Yeah, I remember those, yeah.
And my wife, Ellen, she brings all the bottles back.
Good for
And
her.
that's her money for Foxwoods.
There you go. Like I said, $1,200 in 8 years, okay? Just from, and when my son-in-law was living with us, I mean, it was like every 3 days I had because he just,
He likes his Diet Coke.
oh my God, it's unbelievable. It was literally every 3 or 4 days I had a 32-gallon,
But living so
Container.
close to Cow Hampshire,
yeah.
there's a lot of cans that don't have deposits on them.
Oh, you have to be, yeah.
Oh, New Hampshire doesn't do deposit?
Well, you can go up and buy certain soda
And it's stamped.
it's stamped that it's
So you're
worth
up
5
a nickel
cents.
per
So it's
can.
profit, it's double
Yeah,
profit.
yeah, okay.
But a lot of the cans up there don't have any marks on them that they're.
So in reality, if you adjust for inflation, because the bottle bill came in 1980, okay? And it was a nickel.
Yep.
So
And they
a
haven't changed it.
1980 nickel is worth about a quarter today. So in today's money, your deposit really should be 25 cents, okay? But they have not adjusted that in over 40 years for inflation, okay?
But I suspect.
They will.
These
It
recycled,
ought to be 10 cents anyway.
these bottles and cans we send back don't get recycled.
Well, let me ask you though about that, because
I
when
don't
you-
know, but
when you-
I suspect.
Well, I don't know either, but when you go to Market Basket,
They
they crush them. So that tells me that they're doing something with the crushed,
They're
although,
reducing the volume.
well, that's true, but the newer ones now, which is much more convenient than it used to be, will allow you to put both plastic and aluminum into the same
They shouldn't do that.
machine, so when
I
they...
thought that they shredded them. Sam, in the
They
machine.
do, they shred, yeah,
Shredded.
they look like confetti when it comes out.
But you can hear it. I mean, if you.
You can hear it crunching up, yeah.
If you have glass,
Well, that's a
glass
separate,
glass is
thing.
an easier product to recycle.
Oh, yeah.
Because all it is silica.
you just melt it down.
Silicon dioxide.
Yeah.
And you melt it down, you can make more glass. But
What are they
years
doing
ago,
with the
when,
aluminum, though?
I don't know. I haven't done the research
We should
on
check
it,
that out.
recently to find out if they're doing anything on it. But I know that when they're doing stuff in Indonesia and the South Pacific and they're cleaning everything up like that, somehow or another they're making products out of it. And I know they were making jewelry out of some stuff because when they sold the jewelry, that was financing the project they had to clean up what's going on in all of the oceans. And I still, in terms of the climate aspect of things, since we're, talking about climate friendly, there's two things. One, I think that Chelmsford has created a program for composting.
Yes, oh, they've had that for a while.
So,
So, Ev, you want to read these two?
so many mixed signals on plastic. You can't use plastic bags at Market Basket, but everything in the store is wrapped in plastic.
That's
Good
true.
grief.
That's
If you
true.
return the empties, then you're taking a job from a homeless person. Well, that's
Well-
fine, except there's no homeless people taking anything out of my trash, regardless of where I'm living. But as far as,
Why not? Why can't they? Why are
they
you so
can if
stingy
they
with
want to
these?
go through it. I don't care, but there's nobody running
know.
up and down my
No,
street.
my barrels don't go down any,
No.
so I think...
should yell across
yeah.
the street to the people in the common, Chelmsford, open ground for
Yep, go get the bottles.
Head out to Chelmsford.
Chase
So-
Chase returns his bottles, so go to his house, he's got plenty.
Land of plenty out in Chelmsford for
Yeah.
recycles, returnables.
Yeah,
So
just,
you want to take a look at those programs. I stopped throwing, well, some stuff I throw out because I know that the chipmunks, the birds will eat what I don't use. But I
You're talking
used.
food now, right?
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah,
food waste.
okay.
Organic waste like that, because they claim that most of the methane gas that comes out of the landfills is because of the food.
It's garbage, right.
So if you can take that and you can do something else with it, that would be great.
Why
But
can't they do something with the methane?
They do. They can burn it off.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, if you've got these landfills that...
Well, sometimes they do have,
Yeah.
they do have some kind of a thing where it's burning it
Well,
off.
it vents it, but,
There are some landfills that
Yeah.
they look like giant mansions.
I mean, I always thought, and again, I probably shouldn't even be talking about it because I don't know that much about it, but I always thought that just at least conceptually, trash to energy was a good idea. So, you've got trash that can be burned, although it generates, the carbon and all the rest of it, but...
And other things
And
you
other
don't
things.
want.
But you burn the trash and you use that to create heat and generate energy. I always thought that was a good idea, but maybe it isn't a good idea. I don't know. So again,
There's pros and cons with
well,
everything.
that's it. I mean,
Depends
you
on where
always have a downside, or an unintended consequence, as they say, right? So-
Right, because if you burn stuff, obviously the paper goes first.
Right, right.
And then you melt the plastic.
Right.
And then as far as the metal goes, it's got to get really hot to melt the
Well,
that
that's
metal.
right. Steel and metal is
Yeah, and
different.
aluminum.
And aluminum
Yeah,
is a different
right.
different
And
story.
it depends on how thick it is. Well, anyway, so we talked about that, but the other piece to just put out there again, and what I ought to do is do it once, every time we get together, once a week. If my gas-powered heating system
Speaking of
is
which, did you bring
96.
food today?
No. The last 3 times, nobody ate it.
She's putting us all on diets here, right? So that's okay.
I'm just wondering, because I'm a little hungry, but that's okay.
Well, last week I brought a pumpkin spice bread with a maple glaze,
And I
and
took-
nobody ate it, so I gave it all to Sam.
But I took it home. So
Well, last week's
it was
show
eaten.
was unique. I got all screwed up trying to play with technology, so I didn't have the time to eat.
I'll make stuff for next week.
No, that's all right.
This was a busy week. I went and I saw my mother yesterday. Let me just finish my thought and we'll go on to the next topic. So my thought that I had, that I was finishing, is so that we can kind of move along to the next topic before Vivian gets here, is if my gas-powered heating system is 96% efficient,
It's pretty good.
okay, then I would like to know what the efficiency rates are on any power plants that are supposed to be generating power to support the electricity in the grid.
Good question.
Because if natural gas is the cleanest fuel we have, what are they using as far as the electricity part goes? Is it natural gas? Is it coal? Because they got to be using something. It certainly isn't solar, because they can't get enough panels until they develop the technology to increase what the output would be as a result. And wind.
Well, we had this issue come up about 15 or so years ago when I was, well, actually, it's almost 20 years now. I can't believe it. When I was on the select board, because the town of Billerica, they were going to site a power plant in Billerica. So I was on the board. In fact, I was chairman at the time, so I did quite a little research into that. It's an area that I really didn't know anything about, and I still really don't know a lot about it, but probably just enough to be dangerous. But at the time, when I looked into it, the power plants that are in this part of the country, meaning east of the Mississippi, almost all of them were natural gas fired, okay? And the default was oil. Very, 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 and this was 20 years ago, very, very, very few coal-fired plants. So even at that point, they were trying to phase out the coal. And the first choice was natural gas, and the fallback was oil. So most of these power plants that were being built at that time, they were set up for natural gas, but they were also set up so that they could burn oil in the event that there was an interruption of the natural gas supply, because the oil was less expensive than liquid natural gas would be, which would be the default if they couldn't get the natural gas through the pipes. So, and I thought to myself, well, that's good, because at the time anyway, the thinking was that the natural gas was the cleanest form, which it is. I mean, if you're talking coal, oil, natural gas clearly is the cleanest alternative of the three. So. But now, all of a sudden, the climate people are telling us that natural gas is no good because of the methane. And if you look at the composition of the atmosphere, the methane is almost unmeasurable.
So is the carbon dioxide.
Right, it is such a small, almost a trace factor.
I think that there was an article out
Right.
there that said that the concentration of carbon dioxide was 0.04%.
I think that is the number, and I did look that up a couple of years ago.
However, we
Right.
do have a delicate balance, and I will acknowledge
Oh,
that,
yeah, no,
because
I
there's
mean,
no reason
right.
why not to.
Right.
So anyway, turning the page to something else.
Right.
We had we have foliage. We're in
That's
New
good.
England. Some of it is very vibrant.
Are we on
Most of
time?
what-
Are we ahead or behind? We always have that discussion
I
every year.
think, well, depending upon how old you are, I think that we're behind a week, and that's not a big deal. in
That's
the grand
what
scheme of things.
that's what I'm thinking too.
Because
Yeah.
my parents used to take a trip up to upstate New
Hmm.
York the first weekend in October
Right.
for foliage. So we're still not at a peak, and the trees are holding on. If we have a wet summer, the trees seem to hold onto their leaves a lot longer. They live longer or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
So in New Hampshire, where we are, there's an awful lot of yellow, and every year it varies, and I'm not going to get into the chemistry because you ask me every year about that.
I do, and I never remember the answer, which is why I ask you every year.
Right, well, we'll look that up.
Okay.
But it's not as vibrant as it has been in the past. However, I went and I saw my mother yesterday, which means I have to drive 128 south. And there was a lot of very beautiful maples
As you go south.
as I went south.
Right.
And of course, coming back, I noticed it even more as I got further north. And there's some very brilliant colors out there. So I'm leading into something, obviously. So there was an article that was on Google, and we noticed when we were looking for wood shiplap for my youngest son. He's doing a project. And we went up to Meredith, but the way that we went was Route 11.
Yeah, that's Meredith is right outside of Laconia for those folks who
Well, it's north,
who don't know the area.
quite a bit north.
It is very nice.
So, Sam, can you read this?
Nobody is eating Evelyn's homemade baked goodies? Question. It almost feels like a crime has been committed.
That's okay, I'll have
Well-
something next week.
Well, she'll make a double batch next week. How's that, to make up for it?
So, anyway, on our way over, there's Mount Major. There's an awful lot of different mountains, obviously, in the state of New Hampshire. And sometimes people, there's all kinds of names for them, but anyway, Mount Major is on Route 11, and it's a very easy walk up. I can't do it because of my hips and knees. However, Glenn's done it, the grandchildren have done it, my kids have done it, and so forth. When we drove by there, we have never seen as many cars on the side of the road that were there. And there was an article about
And what were
the
they doing?
leaf peepers.
They were looking at the leaves.
Yes, and the article is worth reading for the details of it, but they said that there were so many people that were on those trails that there were like traffic jams of people. And then they would get off the trail, and the people that are hikers that know what they're supposed to do, they're watching these people that have probably never hiked before in their life. And they said, oh, well, they had shorts on, some of them had slippers.
I saw that in the news.
There
Yeah.
was a lot of stuff that they said, what are they doing?
They were totally inappropriately dressed for what they were trying to do.
So if anybody out there decides that they want to go for a hike, make sure that you do the research of what you should bring with you, how you should dress, and then what kind of weather you should be careful of, because there's 5 inches of snow on the top of Mount Washington currently.
Right.
And so you want to be very cautious because it's winter conditions on top of
Why-
some of the mountains
but-
that you may decide you want to take
Just
a walk
common
to.
sense. Why would anybody go hiking in sandals?
Because they don't know any
They
better.
weed whack in sandals.
Listen, my neighbor mows his lawn in his bare feet. Now, that is very dangerous, okay?
Well, there's a lot of things
So,
that's dangerous
yeah.
that's out there. But a lot of times
Just
when
shake
I
your
power
head.
wash, you gotta be careful of that too, it can rip off your skin. But I don't always use sneakers. Generally speaking, I do, but sometimes I don't. Depends on how wet I'm getting and how hot it is outside, because it's really tough to kind of peel off wet sneakers.
But you gotta have good, whenever you do any work, you've got, I mean,
You gotta be careful.
when I do yard work, regardless, it can be hotter than I don't care. I wear work boots, because what I've learned over the years is you've got to have good, solid footing whenever you're doing that, because if I watch my neighbor, the kid, mowing his lawn in his bare feet, and I say to myself, boy,
Cool.
you ever slip, it's all over, okay?
So this is the camera at the top of Mount
Yeah.
Washington?
Yes, it is.
5 inches of snow, that looks more like
And that's current. If you take
Yeah.
a look at the bottom of your screen, Thursday, October
October
17th,
17th.
Live
and it's
shot.
current, live shot.
That looks like more than 5 inches, but who knows,
Well,
right?
it could be, it's also windy up there, so
Yeah.
it could
I can
move it
remember
into
going up
drifts.
top of Mount Washington with a walkie-talkie, and I could talk to the funeral home
I believe it.
from the top of Mount
I
Washington
believe
with a
it.
walkie-talkie.
Yeah,
It was
with a-
amazing.
Yeah, with like, the walkie-talkie is what, like a 25-watt transmitter?
I
So
think
that,
it was 4 or 5 watts.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I could hear him better than he could hear me, but
so anyway, there was a debate
look, we
last
got a
night.
dude out there.
Yeah, did you see it? I didn't see it.
I saw pieces of it. I didn't see it in its entirety because I anticipated.
Was it a debate, or was
This
it?
guy's
Oh, it was a
city
debate.
life. He knows he's
You're
got
talking
city life.
about the vice president
supposed to be-
on Fox,
Yes,
right?
it was
Okay.
supposed to be an interview,
And how long did that last?
30 minutes,
Okay,
no breaks. It was a debate.
really? Who won?
Well, Brett Baer was trying to get her to answer a question.
And she wouldn't do it?
When she wouldn't answer a question, then he talked over her. And I had said to Glenn the night before, I said, it's 30 minutes. She'll try to filibuster. That's one. Two. I said, I wonder if she's going to say, I'm talking. Or,
Did she?
and what she did was she kept going, let me finish. Can I finish one question before you ask me another question? But there were no answers. So if you taught school that way,
Well, that was the whole point.
people would fail, because most of the stuff is based on, criteria. It's based on something tangible that you can discuss, not something ethereal out here.
I didn't see the thing, but I'm going to you tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm going to take a wild guess. She was on for 30 minutes, and her main objective was to make sure that everybody watching the Fox network understood what a bad, despicable, evil person Donald Trump is.
Absolutely, because
Okay.
when she
That was her assignment, because she knew she was not going to have a friendly interviewer, and she had no intention of answering any questions.
That was her last resort.
Right, so
So when
her
she-
whole thing was, if I'm going to get in front of these people, and I'm just going to reinforce that Donald Trump is the Antichrist, and you need to vote for me. And I think that was her message. Am I wrong?
Well, she didn't call him that.
Well,
But-
but
So
you know
there
what
was a
I'm
question.
saying. Right.
There was a question that Brett asked,
Hmm.
and he wanted to know when she knew when Biden had declined, his cognitive decline.
That's a
And
reasonable
the way
question.
that she answered that was, Biden isn't on the ballot. And then she went on to try to trash Trump in terms of what he said, but
Right.
Brett's immediately I'm going, okay, oh, good. If she can't identify what was wrong with Biden, how can she identify what's wrong with Trump? Because part of the reason that they got rid of Biden was because of his mental challenges that he had, and a lot of, I'm trying to be kind with this, but I mean, just the way he was handling himself. I think as soon as he got out of the race, he started to act a lot better. As if they gave him some kind of different medication. But anyway, and with Trump, how can she identify that he has a mental problem?
Evelyn's turn.
Mr. Chase, the American people won after her non-answering of the questions.
Well, that, and I understand that, but again, to me, the election is going to come down to not the two people at the top of the ticket, because they are both, in my opinion, very and seriously flawed people, okay? So, and I get this question from people, they say, well, what do you do? Because we don't like Trump and we don't like Harris, all right? So my answer is this: ignore the two people at the top of the ticket, and you vote the philosophy that they represent, okay? So in other words, if Trump is elected, what kind of action do you think you're going to see from the federal government in terms of addressing the issues before us versus the kinds of action you're going to see from a Harris administration? So really what I'm saying is, if you are a more conservative person, you probably want to look at the Trump presidency. If you are a more liberal or left-wing person, you probably want to look at the Harris presidency. So forget the two personalities. get under that, look at the philosophies, what do you think is going to happen for 4 years when either of these people are elected, and that's how you vote, okay?
Right, and that's how I vote.
And I've had a number of people, and this is true, and I could tell you who the person was, and you would be flabbergasted, but I won't.
No, you gotta get permission.
A person whom I've known for about 40 years. So that this person is a registered Democrat. I don't think he's ever voted for a Republican in his life. Told me about 4 weeks ago he was going to vote for Donald Trump. Well, after I picked myself up off the floor, I said, why? And he pretty much said what I just said. Can't stand the guy, but if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're going to get accelerated progressive socialism. And although my friend is a Democrat, I would characterize him as a traditional or JFK type Democrat, not a new progressive type. He very concerned about what's going to happen economically under a progressive administration, and he's going to vote for Donald Trump. And I still can't believe it, by the way. Okay, let's see. This commenter says, Brett Baer's interview was terrible. Kamala was terrible with her answers. He was rude and kept interrupting. Typical media hacks on both sides. Okay, Evelyn, you watched the interview.
I watched more of it.
Okay, you watched it.
Just a second.
Is that accurate?
I had my hand up. It
go
got
ahead.
ignored.
I'm
so
sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Dodging in here. Okay?
Go ahead. Go
It's
ahead.
still early.
Listening to talk. No, we're almost
No, I mean,
done with
I
the first
forgot,
hour.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So, riding around in the car yesterday, talk radio suggested the questions were vetted. And the
In other words, she had them in advance?
Commentators, going to expand on it. Commentators gave the impression that she told them what questions she wanted asked, and that was the deal that Fox made with them.
Okay.
Did either of you guys hear anything
No.
more
No.
about that? Okay, now, from an interviewer's point, when I get somebody in here, and we'll use the great Nikki Songus, fabulous interviewer. I think she came here twice.
Nice person, too.
She is, lovely woman. But she knows how to get around an answer. So, what do you think about the war, Congresswoman? John, how's Ellen doing? How's your wife? and your grandson? How?
Well, that could be a war.
How are you? And she just goes right down that avenue.
Well, that's what they do.
So what the hell are you supposed to do? No, let's not talk about my family. How do you feel about the war? Well, now I'm rude for doing that. Okay,
So-
an interview is I'm going to ask you questions. Now, can you imagine you go into a car dealer and you're asking a car dealer about your car and he goes like, so Ev, how's your mother? Sorry about your dad. How's things up at the lake? Look, I want to know about the car.
Well, that's what
And
they do.
Those kind of answers are not acceptable, and the media has to find a way not to be rude and still
Well,
be entertaining.
But what I said to Glenn, as I watched pieces of it, and
I'll have to go
I
back
was up
and
and
watch it.
downstairs, because I watch upstairs, he watches downstairs, he does what he wants to do type of thing, it's easier for me. So, when I came down at one point, I said, do you think that anyone in her campaign had the foresight to take a look at how Brett Baer interviews?
In other words, watch interviews that he's
You
done with
watch
other people.
interviews he's done, you
Right.
know what his style is, so that you're not surprised
Oh, I'm sure they did
when you
that.
get there.
I'm sure they did that.
And this is what Brett does. Even my sister, when we were having a conversation
Hmm.
beforehand, she said, well, he has a tendency to interrupt anyway, every time he does stuff, and he does. But
Well,
if
you
I
only
was to...
have certain, Ev, people don't have 2 hours like you have. They have commercials, like you listen to any radio cast that's out there, okay? There's 12 minutes of commercials every half hour.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have the balance left, and sometimes it's 14 minutes
Right,
of
but
commercials.
what Brett did
Plus
was...
news, plus weather,
I understand,
plus
but
traffic.
what Brett Baer did was he said, 30 minutes, no commercials.
Okay,
So he had 30 minutes, and he knew he had 30 minutes.
but let me,
And so you have an interviewer that's under a certain amount of pressure to get as much information out there as possible. If you ask a yes or a no question, and the person that you ask it to
Doesn't.
starts at the beginning of the world for the history, oh, I grew up in a middle-class family. Now it's a working-class family. This has changed. And so you get, you start with all of that, and my mother and my sister, and that, and you never get to the answer. You interrupt to say, I asked you a question. Can you give me a yes or a no answer?
and some interviewers have done that with her.
Yes,
okay?
on the other side.
Right.
And then when they did ask the questions and she didn't answer the questions, they edited it. And the FTC is investigating CBS for editing the information that was on their program, because what it does is it skews what the outcome is.
Well,
It
that's
changes the
That's
outcome of
that-
the interview.
That's the idea, all right?
Well, I knew that's the idea, but
But,
I'm just saying that I saw something that came across Google that said that they were going to, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission,
Right.
is going to investigate as to exactly what CBS did. But to get back to
I would
this
be
before,
shocked if they
I mean,
do.
we only got a couple of minutes. I was a little bit taken back, just so that whoever's listening out there understands, when he talked over her and tried to get her to answer the questions.
But apparently that's what he does.
Well,
Something-
that's his style.
Something,
But that's no excuse. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that it was like, oh my gosh, can I deal with this? So I turned, that's why I was flipping back and forth. I don't like any of that.
Something John said, I think is interesting, about her appearing on Fox. So when I first heard that that was going to happen, I guess I was a little surprised, that she would, it's only 30 minutes and she can bob and weave for 30 minutes. But what John said makes sense to me as to why she even appeared on Fox in the first place. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking there had to be some discussion and there had to be some ground rules or stipulations made for her to agree to go on the
Well,
network.
it was
I don't believe that the conversation was, Madam Vice President, will you just appear and do an interview? Yes, I'll be there, thank you very much. I think there was more
No, he did tell
conversation
you.
than that.
In prior programs, he did say that there was negotiations.
Well, of course, that's what I'm getting
And
at.
part
Yeah.
of the reason that she
of
should
course.
be on Fox is the viewership.
Well, they have a larger viewership than the other cable
Does
networks.
she realize that if she screws up, she has a larger viewership that sees she screwed
Well,
up?
Any questions, Evelyn, you're not going to screw up.
But if she goes into what she considers to be hostile territory, her whole thing is, I haven't got anything to lose. These people aren't going to vote for me anyway.
Yeah, there's different ways to look at it.
And if I manage to change a few minds, fine.
Hold that
You know?
thought. We're going to go to
Well, we got a break, we'll be
Right.
right back.
All right. I'm going to get some more coffee. Oh, nice. Room, son, what is it?
That's a move.
That's Lowell General Hospital. In the way back around there.
All right, I gotta move. Oh,
Actually, it's not blinking now.
because we've rotated all of these.
Oh, okay. That was blinking before, so. Okay.
How's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Living the dream. Coming back to the gym. Yeah, I got this thing last Monday. I thought I had kicked its ass the week before. I came back and smacked me. Now I can just kind of like go like this and not be breathing on anybody.
Okay, well, good. That's all right. If I get sick, I'll know what the source is, right?
You will.
Okay.
You will. You know where I live. You can clobber
Yeah,
me
my
there.
wife will kill you, don't worry.
Sweet. Take me out of my misery.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, now I'm blinking.
You are blinking.
Right, and you want to make sure, especially since you have that mask on, that you're about like this to the, if there's an issue, we'll
If that goes out, he can tell.
Okay.
He'll know when your mic is not working,
Okay.
so. I haven't recorded any shows since the first week in October. Well, I've been too busy in the assessor's office. I haven't got time.
Oh, that's right. You got the annual tax thing.
Yeah, we've had almost 100% turnover in the office.
Yeah. My daughter was saying that.
All new people, and 2/3 of the board is new.
Oh, okay.
So,
So you're like the last man standing.
yes, it's,
Vivian, is there anything you want to talk about?
Hey, not a whole
She's gonna
lot.
hold-
Okay.
oh, that's your cough drops.
Yes,
just remember, you gotta be this far away.
right, yeah.
Or you can do this. I've sat back and just done this.
There you go.
So you can, so as you sit back, you move back and forth, just.
True, it is adjustable,
Talk
right?
about your,
You got
talk
the
about
dog
your,
park thing
talk
coming
about
up.
your dog
We got a whole
park.
list.
Talk about your holiday,
Yeah.
Holiday prelude.
Prelude.
Yep,
Right.
and anything going on in Lowell, and your second job, and
third job.
whatever.
Right,
and
isn't that
I have a couple of
ridiculous?
other
You
questions.
still doing your third job?
I am.
Oh, okay.
I go there for the entertainment. It never disappoints.
There you go.
Is
Okay,
it-
we're going, but Ev, you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, I'll change the screen, I'll change the names of the screen in a second. Mike's gonna.
Something's wrong.
You're at now.
Were they on before?
No.
Oh, well,
Start
welcome
again.
back, everybody.
There you go.
I'll say it again.
Say it
We're having
again.
such wonderful technical issues this morning.
Yeah, but you get
At
a
least-
lot of rehearsal, right?
Yeah, and I get to say it a different way every time I do
Yep.
this. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I'm your host for the next 56 minutes or so. Sam Chase is my co-host. Bob Hoey is not with us this morning, but according to John, he will be with us next week.
Good.
And I will be baking because I know that usually he will at least take a piece. John McDonough is behind the camera. Our guest, Vivian Merrill. Thank you very much for coming in this morning to talk about a lot of stuff going on in Chelmsford.
That's 2 R's and 2 L's.
You got it.
Okay. He's got it on the screen there.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as everything
That's right.
looks just
Keep those
fine
cards
for
and
you.
letters coming.
There you go.
So, you wear many hats. So what we're gonna
No
some
hat
of the
today.
No, just a mask.
so you also well
We already
yeah.
mentioned why she has the mask on.
No, she has a mask on because she has a cold and she doesn't want to give us any germs, and that's
Okay.
why she's sitting on the end rather than the
Yeah,
middle.
Normally she'd be sitting in the middle, but
Right, because we have our guest that usually
Right.
sits in the middle. So if anybody's wondering why we're set up the way we are,
I am
and
not
why
the
things
guest.
look, then now you know. So we appreciate the fact that she's very conscious of not
yes,
spreading the
thank
germs.
you very much. That's very, very
Thank you. Thank you.
compassionate of you, I guess, is the
It
Right.
can happen.
Yeah.
So Vivian, you work in Lowell and you were on a committee in Lowell. Is there anything going on with that committee? Is that all done with? And what was the results? And was it presented to the city council, or any number of things you can tell us first about that?
That's quite a
The work
question.
of the committee's been done for about 8 or 9 months now. I haven't heard anything.
Things are moving at the speed of government, in other words. Right?
Yeah.
There you go.
I know they finalized the plan. I believe they presented it to the city council. What happened from there, they have not let the committee know. So we just kind of went along with our lives, and guess what? We're in the middle of October now.
Was there any kind of a deadline that you were anticipating?
No.
No, so this is just totally
They
open.
told us that we will
totally
call you
open-ended.
when we need you.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't call us, we'll call you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
So
Yeah.
pretty much we can stop talking about that. We'll
Yeah.
find another
No
head.
news.
The whole master plan is on their website.
Oh, well, that's good.
That's something.
That's good, yeah.
Okay, so the website is for the city of Lowell.
Yes.
And if you look under search, you can find out what the results
It's
were
like
of the committee you were on.
lowellmouse.gov.
Okay, so it is up on the website for everybody in
Well,
Lowell.
that's progress.
And if anybody that's not in Lowell is interested, it's also there, because we have in Chelmsford, we have, master plans, we have all kinds of information that is up on our website. And also, one of the things is that there are mail-in ballots, there are, early voting.
Early voting starts October 19th in Chelmsford.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of things going on.
Statewide,
Yes.
Yep.
all starts tonight.
Right.
Yes, everything is the same because I registered my mother to vote in Braintree. She received her mail-in ballot. At first, we thought somebody took it, but then again, my mother's 103. She found it, and we filled ours in together yesterday. It was interesting. I'm not going to go off on this topic, but it was interesting going through to try to explain to her to understand the questions. So we got a result, but
She voted.
she voted.
There you go.
But she always votes in a presidential election. And she has since she was 21. And I don't think she ever voted for a Democrat. She's a little more conservative. But let's move on, because we do have a guest. The dog park. I know that the last time that you were in, there were some events that you were going to have. How did they go? What are the new events? Are there any issues with it? Are you expanding lights? There's a lot of things
How are the
going on.
dogs?
They're
They're good?
doing their own thing.
Okay.
They work out their own political problems, usually with their teeth.
Yep.
And it is what it is.
Maybe we could take a
The biggest
lesson
thing
from
with the dog park right now is their Halloween event will be on October 26th from 11 to 2. The
Now,
lights
the
proposed.
dogs have a Halloween event.
They do.
Explain that to us.
That's where the dogs and the owners can dress up in their costumes for Halloween. They have a
Okay.
little parade.
Dogs have costumes?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They make
Oh, yeah,
all kinds
very
of stuff for dogs.
popular.
They make clothes for dogs.
I'm going to have to take a look at this.
And they
Yep,
have
if
they
you
have
go on
booths.
the Chelmsford Dog Association website, they have a photo gallery there. You can see some of the creative stuff people have done over the years.
Well, my
They get into it. They love it.
my daughter's family just bought a dog. So I'm going to have to tell her about this. And they might.
What kind of dog?
It's a golden retriever.
Okay.
It's a puppy, 14 weeks old. Might be a little young to participate in
usually
something
under
like
4
that.
months, they
Okay.
don't come in because
Yeah,
they
that
can
makes
get hurt too easily.
that makes perfect sense. So maybe next year for the Halloween dog show.
Yeah, my daughter just got a new Saint Bernard too, so.
A Saint Bernard.
Yep, this
Not a
is like
sweet
3 months
dog.
old.
Not a
And,
small dog.
She won't be. She's
Yeah.
23 pounds now at 3 months old.
Ouch.
Growing every day.
Right, and my oldest son has a German Shepherd, who's the German Shepherd is 8 months old. And then my youngest son has an American Bulldog that was a rescue. And
Those can get big. We had one years ago.
yeah, she's a good sized dog. She's not as big as, I'm trying to think, the Golden Retriever. A lot of Goldens are being bred with Russian Retrievers because of the inbreeding in the Golden in this country. And so you have white Golden Retrievers with
Yes.
black skin.
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's what my sister has. And they're specially bred to
didn't-
try to keep them more healthy.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay,
because,
so-
well, let me ask about that, and either you or Vivian, because I don't know the answer. So what I've read is that if animals, dogs, cats, doesn't matter, if you confine the breeding to just that specific breed, it tends to weaken the breed in terms of many things. But the mixed breed animals tend to be stronger, hardier,
For the
better
most part, yeah.
dispositions. Is that true?
We've heard that as well,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Well, there's another piece.
Depends on the trainer.
It depends on with the breeder, are they using the same males for the offspring as they do for well, no, that's not what I want to say. For future generations, as they do for the original ones.
Yeah, see,
Down the road a piece. And that inbreeding
that
is what
would not be
causes
good.
problems.
You guys
That would
remember
not be
Dr. John Kabonazak, the late, great Dr. John. He was the medical examiner for the region for like a bazillion years. He had a German Shepherd. The German Shepherd, so he would never lock his car. The German Shepherd would stay in the car. He'd go in certified deaths, and you go near that car, and that dog is going to go nuts at you. The dog wouldn't listen to anything. The dog only knew Polish. Dr. Kabonazak would talk to the dog in Polish. So he calls me up one day. John, I have to go up to Nashua to pick up my wife's car. Can you come with me and you can drive the car back? And sure, I'll go with you, but I'm afraid of dogs. She says, oh, don't worry about the dog. Get in the car, the dog's going bananas. And he said 2 words in Polish, and the dog just laid down in the back seat and didn't do a doggone thing the whole freaking ride.
That dog knew
They're very
Polish.
smart.
That's a smart dog. So when I grew up, when we're talking about inbreeding and things, when I grew up, the people next door, our neighbors, had a German Shepherd. But the German Shepherd had hip replacements and a variety of other things because of the
Wow.
inbreeding with the German Shepherds at the time.
Well, see, that's what I've heard, that if you just restrict it to the same breed, over time, you don't get a very good result. I mean, the animals deteriorate, or they're not as hardy, or not as smart.
And it's the same
that
thing
kind
with
of thing.
cats. I was a little bit more involved with cats. I had
exactly.
a white Persian female that I showed. In fact, Glenn was talking about that over the weekend about he had shared with somebody about the fact that when we were first married, he was going to cat shows. He says, the boringest thing he ever did. And I would agree with him, but it was something to do. And so,
I think I've
you
ever
know,
been to a cat show.
well, it's very boring. It's not like a dog show at all. It basically is what does the cat look like?
Yeah, pretty much.
The quality of the cat versus what the cat can do. With a dog show, it's all obedience and it's a variety of other things. But with a cat, you can't herd cats. So it's an interesting adventure. But in the lineage of the cat that I had, I did not have a blue-eyed white cat. It was copper. Her eyes were like bright orange, absolutely gorgeous. But
The eyes were copper?
yeah, the background, the iris part of it.
Interesting.
You know, like I have green eyes, you have brown eyes, or blue.
Hazel.
Well, that again, there's a whole scientific discussion. We don't need to go into the genetic aspect of it. But as far as the cat goes, if you had her lineage, if you had a blue-eyed white cat, more than likely it would be deaf or hard of hearing, because that was the result of the inbreeding within the line with that cat. And the difference, I don't know if they do it today, and Vivian, you may know, with dogs, if you buy a pedigree dog, usually part of the agreement is that you get the dog fixed so that it can't have.
Yeah, it's up to the
Pups.
breeder. Yeah.
Well,
So the
I haven't seen
breeder
any
might
exception.
impose that requirement on you?
Well, usually they do.
Okay, all right.
Usually they do.
I'll have to
You would
ask.
think if they felt that strongly about it, they'd do it themselves, but they want the dogs out of there before they're able to get
I'll have to ask my daughter, because I don't know, they just got this puppy, and
Male or female?
it's female.
Okay.
And I don't know,
Why you would want puppies is beyond me.
no, but again, at what age do you do that? I mean, they got the dog at
6 months?
at 12 weeks, so I'm going to say nothing has been done.
I think it's
Right,
like
it's
6
too
months.
Yeah, right.
Usually, there's different ways to look at it. Not that our viewership wants to know all these
Have to
details
ask
about
if-
dogs.
yeah.
But usually the dog comes into heat, and then they once, and then they fix it after that point in time. Because if you do it too soon, it screws things up later.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so there's a different price on a dog if they think you're going to breed the dog, because then you're in competition with them, unless you're breeding the dog for them, which is another alternative.
I'll have to
But they're
ask.
shipping dogs all over the country from all these different puppy farms. Some breeders are very reputable and some aren't, and so if you're going to get a dog, you really need to do more investigation. All right, so we have the Halloween thing. We got off on a tangent. Sorry about that.
Yes, you do.
Well, yeah, because we were talking about, and I wanted to know about Dog Halloween, because I think that's very interesting.
Okay, so that's October 26th at the
Yes.
Chelmsford Dog Park, 11 to 2.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other events that's coming up for the dog park?
Not really public events. The light proposal will be before the select board at some point. The Chelmsford Dog Association will figure out what that schedule's gonna be and work it out with them.
That appeared, when I watched you at the last board meeting, and there appeared to be some disunity or disagreement or between the dog association. Now, there were two, explain that, because I can't remember. There were
Okay,
two
the Dog Park
separate
Advisory
groups, that's
Committee,
it.
yes,
Dog Park Advisory Committee, and then the,
Chelmsford Dog Association.
okay, so it seemed to me as an outsider, not really knowing anything about the subject except what I've heard from you and what I was able to observe that meeting, it seemed like you two were not on the same page.
We're still not on the same
Okay,
page.
so talk about that a little bit.
Basically, in 2022, Mr. Wagner, who's the president of the CDA,
Chelmsford Dog Association.
yes,
Not the advisory committee?
no.
Okay,
said he was interested in doing night lighting at the park during the winter months when it gets dark early and people who want to work want to get their dogs out and things like that. And he put before us a 20 light proposal, 15 feet in the air, that would be shut off at 9 o'clock at night. And we did not support that proposal because it was too intense. It was too much light. Like, you're going to infuriate every neighbor for like half a mile around that park. No.
at
And that
15
was-
feet, I think that's probably a pretty good assumption.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot.
Doesn't it depend on the kind of light you're gonna have? If you have downward lights,
Yeah, I mean, at the time, it's like, if you want, get a sample of the light. We'll try to make a judgment from there. And by April of 2023, nothing happened. So we're like, all right, apparently there's no interest. You're not pursuing it. We're just going to let it drop. And don't worry about getting a sample because they're very expensive. It's like, okay, don't waste your money, you know? And then in July of '24, we find out that Will has been talking to the town manager and...
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
he's going around you?
Yeah, yep. And he wants to put the proposal before the select board because he really wants these lights.
okay, so stop right there because we need some clarification. So we have the Chelmsford Dog Park Advisory Committee, which you're on, and then we have the Chelmsford Dog Association.
Which is the volunteer
which is the
branch that
volunteer
is
group
supposed to
that's-
maintain the park.
Right, and they're the
All they
ones,
got to worry about is keeping the park clean.
but they're the ones that are putting forth a proposal to do the lighting. All right.
At this point, yes.
So my question, so apparently the CDA people now have talked to the town manager and so forth. So my question to you is, the Chelmsford Dog Park Advisory Committee, do you have any kind of control over what happens, or are you just an advisory committee? So in
We
other
are
words,
just an
all
advisory
right, so you
committee.
can't stop CDA from doing what they want to do.
No.
Okay, I
No.
just want to get that clarified.
No,
All
I
right.
mean, my biggest issue with him going to the town manager was he didn't even have his board support at that point. They had had a few informal discussions. Mr. Wagner basically did this on his own.
So
and
they're
so
not
be
on-
it.
They're not on the same page
They were not. They did not, I mean, this.
That's kind of how it came across when I watched the meeting.
Yeah,
And I thought, okay, it was funny, again, not knowing anything about it, I'm watching the meeting, and I'm thinking, okay, I guess I understand, it makes sense that CDA and Dog Park Advisory might be at odds. But it looked to me like within the CDA itself, people were not agreeing. So
No.
okay, so
no,
I
the
did
select board
interpret,
meeting was on August 19th.
I did interpret that correctly, okay.
The CDA had their monthly meeting the Monday before that, so the
Right.
week before. The only reason that we found out that they were even going before the select board was because of the CDA meeting. They never told us that they were officially doing it.
Yep.
In July, we talked to the town manager, and and we were told to work it out
With
with the
with that,
CDA.
right, yeah.
And we had 2 meetings, and Will never had any updated plans. So we didn't vote on anything. Now we're fast forwarding to August 19th. He didn't even have the approval of his board until the Sunday before. The CDA met online on August 18th, and that's when they're like, okay, fine, you've gone this far, we might as well go forward with it.
They gave in.
Yeah,
They met online?
So
they
different,
did like Zoom.
so you have members of the dog association. How
Interesting.
many members are there, do you know?
I have no idea.
All right,
There's a
and
4-person board. It's going to be an interesting annual meeting for them this November because they're getting kind of tired of Will acting out on his own without
well,
the
that's where
support
I
of
was
his
going to
board.
go with my comments.
And it's trickling down to park members in general, because there was recently another proposal that Will wanted to do with the DPW to put some rocks and pipe in the middle of the park, and the park goers went crazy. They let loose on them at their last meeting, going, no, we don't want any more obstacles in this park. We have enough tires. This is a trip hazard. We're on this tear where we want to make this more ADA friendly and, level out the paths and things like that. No, please don't do this. So at that point, their board voted that proposal down. And yes, there's a lot of upheaval in general. I don't know how it's going to work out. There's a
Well,
sense of...
again, whatever they do, seems to me, I don't know, again, let me ask, so if the Chelmsford Dog Association, the CDA people want to do something to the park, they want to make physical changes to the park, so
They should be running it before the DPAC.
So they have to agree, obviously, as a board. The majority has to agree on what to do. And then what is the next step that they would take? Let's say they want to do something, they all agree, or the majority agrees. Now to get it done, what do they have to do? What's the next step?
They should be looking for support from the Dog Park Advisory Committee. If it's a major capital improvement type project, then at that point, it should be run before the town manager.
Okay, so the bottom line is that any change that is made to the park that is going to involve town money now falls into the purview, since it's town-owned land, really it falls under the select board, not the town manager. And the first contact would be the town manager, but the
Sure.
town manager can't make the decision because it's town-owned land. Town-owned land is strictly the administrative responsibility of the select board.
Right.
So they would make the decision.
Now, ultimately, this light proposal was not going to be town funded. The CDA was going to
Okay.
do all the fundraising.
So they're going to
for it.
fundraise for that.
But there is an issue.
Who's going to do the work? It would be DPW that would do the work,
That would be the DPAC's preference.
okay?
Mr. Wagner seems to think that the volunteers can install these things on their own.
15-foot lighting?
Yes,
I would question that.
John?
seriously.
Yeah.
It's time, Evelyn's favorite part of the show.
Oh, actually.
All right, we're going to
I think you're 4
advertisements.
minutes late. Go ahead.
If you want an announcement on this show, easy to do, just send me a text. Send me an email, text. That works pretty good. Today is Thursday, 17th of October.
Stuffed peppers.
Stuffed peppers today over at the Lowell Senior Center.
I love stuffed peppers.
The Lowell Senior Center has lunch 7 days a week.
You liked mine.
$2.
I love stuff. You know I like stuffed peppers.
So, your mics are hot, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
But I'm recommending the stuffed peppers.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity to get over to Lowell Senior Center for $2. Check out their stuffed peppers. You don't have to be from Lowell. You just gotta be 60 years and older. You're 59, you are not
You're
welcome.
not getting in, right? That
So you
ship
go in there
sailed for
around-
me a long time ago.
When they're around 10:30, there's a nice gal at the desk, or the gal, usually her name is Tara, and give you $2. If you don't have the $2, we'll give it to you for free.
Oh, even better.
So stuffed peppers today. Tomorrow they have baked cod. So, good stuff 7 days a week over at the Lowell Senior Center. Thank you for your service to the community.
Stuffed pepper.
Tonight,
Oop, can't read it. There you go.
the Back Central Neighborhood Association has their meeting. It's at the, right across from St. Anthony's Church in St. Anthony's Hall. No steps, just walk in the ground floor. I know I'm gonna be there, 7 o'clock tonight, be there or be square. There's, it's a good time. You'll find out what's going on in the neighborhood. The cops will be there to explain what's happening in the community. I'm sure the homeless will come up, but that's tonight. It's the third Thursday of every month. Stephen Dunst has sent me this, so I wanted to put it out this morning. Wait a second. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna blow this guy up a little bit. Too much? Okay. Holy Trinity, I don't know, Palapatuca, Los Cuchos, Fall Greek Food Fair is coming up November 2nd, 11 to 4 p.m. at the Hellenic Cultural Center, 41 Broadway Street. And they're going to have chicken dinner with roasted potatoes, some other Greek food, and it's always delicious stuff. So 11 to 4 on
Baklava.
Baklava, okay, good. Always tasty. Town of Tewksbury, Mark Kratman sent me this morning. We hit the minus sign, see if it goes small, okay. The Town of Tewksbury Veterans Day ceremony is going to be Monday, November 11th, 11 o'clock on the Town Common. The address you want to put in your instrument, whatever you're going to use, 1000 Main Street in Tewksbury. Everyone's invited to attend, very moving. They do a good job out there.
Is that a memorial? Do they have memorial, like stones and so forth in Tewksbury?
They got the gazebo, and they have the veterans come from each war that they're alive,
Okay.
and they put a flag down. It's a really nice ceremony that they do there, and looking forward to. You put it on video. Probably put it on video this year too. And those are, Evelyn, that's all my
Wow.
announcements for today.
That's amazing.
That's it.
How do you like
So
that?
Back to you. No political parties coming up, or nothing.
One of the
That only
things
took 4 minutes. That's a record.
yeah,
Oh, well, now I have comment from the audience.
Yeah.
Is there a cat fight over the dog
Ah,
park?
yes. I think there is.
I think there's a difference of opinion.
That's good.
I like that. You'll have to use that.
Get the opinion of the cats here on what should be done, right?
Oh, Evan Belansky used to constantly make jokes about that.
Oh.
So when we doing the cat park?
Yeah,
As soon
they-
as you decide it, my
That,
friend.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, there won't be any cat park.
Well, it's too bad that, because again, the dog park, I think, is looked at by people who are paying attention to this, I think is looked at favorably, positively. I
Oh,
mean,
if that's the thing,
Yeah,
it's
a
growing
pla-
pains.
It's a place where you can take your dog and get
Mm-hmm.
the dog exercised, and it's a controlled environment, and you don't have to worry about leash law and
Right.
that
I'd
kind
say
of thing.
90% of
Right.
everybody that goes there
Right.
has no idea any of this is going on.
I'm sure. I mean, that's the way it is with just about anything.
That's the way
And
it
they're
is with
perfectly
government.
happy that way.
Right.
That's the way it is in the government. That's why we have so many issues, is because people just don't take a look at things until it's either too late
Well,
or there's
until
crisis.
they perceive that it's going to affect them, then they get interested. But if we think, well, it doesn't have anything to do with me, then you don't pay attention.
The other thing I forgot to do, we were talking about recycling at the beginning of the last hour at 6 a.m. And we were talking about bottles and cans and the turning in the cans to get your nickel back and all that stuff. Friends of Music in Chelmsford do a bottle and can drive once a month. The money goes into the music program
Did
at
not
the
know
Chelmsford
it
Public
was
Schools.
That frequently, once a month they do
I
it?
think it's that, and it's the second Saturday. So I looked up on the Friends of Music website, so before anybody says, oh, this is wonderful and lovely, I don't have to worry about doing that, I'll collect it and I'll donate my cans and or bottles. They have to be stamped with the 5 cents. And I don't know if they take beer cans or anything along those lines.
So if it's New Hampshire cans,
Well, they don't know if it's New Hampshire cans, if it's stamped with the 5 cents for
Evan, I
MN.
think it's your turn to read this one.
Life must be good in Chelmsford if there is this much attention to a dog park. Any room at the park for Lowell's homeless. Only if they want to sleep in
Ironic
dog
they
food.
should ask that, because the dog park in Lowell is very close to a homeless camp.
really?
And they do have some conflicts over there because of that. So it's not an off-the-wall situation, but, yeah, I mean,
Well, you Chelmsfordians may or may not know that city council is working real hard. They delayed their decision to kick the homeless off public property because they added to it another little line that you can't camp 1,000 feet from a school. So they added that to it. So the city's attorney, my takeaway from watching the meeting is the city attorney's going to put that into the motion, and that's going to get passed. Forecast says it's going to get passed next week. Some of the city councilors tried to water down the homeless problem we have in Lowell, saying, let's give them some more time. This is too quick. The deadlines, it should be down the road. It's getting cold. Time is, so that's what's going on in Lowell. So hopefully, on
where are
my
they
side
gonna-
of the issue, I hope it gets passed next week.
Where are they going to go?
They're going to be offered help, but you can't stay here.
I mean, what do you do with the situation
Yeah, where are
like
they gonna
the
go?
young lady and the gentleman in Chelmsford that are wandering around? They have been given housing.
Yeah.
They don't want it.
No, they don't want it, right.
You know, I mean,
Well, they
that's,
can't,
it's a
they
tough
can't live on the
balance to
common. though.
fight.
They can't live on the common. They can't live on public property. And so if you don't want our help, you can't stay here.
Yeah,
I
see,
don't
a
know how
lot
you
of
can
people think
enforce
that, a lot of people think that nothing's being done, but it has always been many times, not 100%. I don't even know if it's 75%. But they do try to offer people to go into shelters. They won't go. They have good reasons why they won't go, depending upon the shelter.
It doesn't matter whether we think they're good reasons or not. They're their reasons. They don't want to go.
No, I understand that.
Right.
But
And
it's a perfect example. America just ignores mental illness.
I think.
We see shootings happen every single week because the guy is a nut or the gal's a nut.
Yep.
Oh, don't say nut. Okay, they're mentally ill. But either way, America, we are ignoring mental illness. Don't call them nuts.
I think that the media is ignoring an awful lot of things that
American-
wait a minute now, with investigative reporting, they would be able to help the general public understand exactly what's going on, but everything is biased, or it's not of any great importance because, as Sam said, it doesn't affect a lot of people.
I think you had a perfect example, and I just saw a clip. I did not see the whole interview, so let me say that. But Martha Raddatz
Oh, that's what I was going to bring up.
was interviewing J.D. Vance, and he started to talk about the situation in Colorado where apparently a Venezuelan gang of
Really bad guys.
allegedly illegal immigrants was taking over an apartment complex. So what I got out of it, and I did do a little bit of investigating, not every complex in the city was taken over, but there were more than one. It was a couple or two or three. But anyway, this is a fact. It did happen. They have the video footage. So he was in the interview with Martha Raddatz, and he made a reference to that. And he got about halfway through what he was saying, and she interrupted him and stopped him and said, "Now, I have to stop you right there, because really what you're saying is not accurate." And she went on to say, it's only a handful of these apartment complexes that are being taken over. And he looked at her and he said, "Do you hear yourself?" You know, essentially, what is the allowable number of apartment complexes that we say is okay to be taken over, which is what he was trying to say. So you had an interviewer, Martha Raddatz, who lives in her ivory tower in Manhattan, and this means nothing to her because it's never going to happen to her. If I had been Mr. Vance, I would have said to her, "Martha, how would you feel if that were your apartment complex that was being taken over?"
I don't think he had time. He has to keep things really tight.
Well, I would have said it, because that is the issue, okay? And I mean, at least she acknowledged that it happens.
She tried to say he wasn't saying
She
anything
said,
accurate.
yeah, but
Saying that it happens.
he was saying it was accurate, because they have video footage of this happening. So again, you know, it's just a perfect example of the media making light of an issue or saying, well, that really isn't as important as you think it is, or it isn't as bad as you think it is because it's only a few incidences. Well, talk to the woman who was displaced. Talk to the woman who had an AR-15 shoved into her face, okay, and ask her whether she thinks it's an important issue or not.
Well, Sam, I'll tell you this
Okay.
about New York City, okay? Traditionally, when we sail out of New York on a cruise, there's a hotel we stay at. We get on the day before, stay at this hotel, and you can see the cruise dock from the hotel. It's a great spot for us. So I call the hotel, and the guy says to me, Mac, not a good idea.
Mac?
Not a good idea. Because, well, he looks at, what's your name, blah, blah, looks at
Okay.
Mac, not a good idea. This place is loaded with homeless.
It's a hotel.
Loaded with homeless.
Okay.
So, we're not staying there.
Maybe it's easier for him to say they're loaded with homeless versus loaded with migrants, illegal aliens, or whatever we want to call them that's politically correct currently.
He gave me good advice.
Well, I just, that when I watched that, I said, there is a perfect example of what's wrong with the reporting and the media, okay? She tried to make light of what I consider to be a very serious issue. And of course, the more complexes are taken over, the worse the problem gets. But to try to suggest that just because it only happens in a few cases, it's not something we really ought to be terribly concerned about. And that was the message that she was trying to get across.
Yeah, well, there's another message
Okay.
that was out there in the media
So-
also, in the fact that the percentages of assaults, murders, any number of things, you put it under a category, I mean, they're all felonies, that the percentage is low in comparison to the number of people in the country, and those committed by migrants is a low percentage.
Yeah, well,
That is lessening the effect of the fact that it occurs. And the people that it's occurring to, they don't care whether or not it's the least amount because it affected them. Somebody died, somebody was molested, somebody was beat up, somebody was robbed. I mean, this is
Again-
not a good thing to have that mentality.
Yeah.
Well, the percentages are low.
And as people who are not directly affected, we need to be careful how we talk about it. So we talk about unemployment rates, and we say, well, hey, we're in good shape. The unemployment rate is only 4%. Well, let me tell you, if you're one of the 4% that's unemployed and you need a job, then it's a different discussion, isn't it? Yes. So we need to be very sensitive to that. And people like Martha Raddatz, I mean, they come across as ivory tower elitists.
Well-
That's how they come across when they talk about these issues, because they are never, ever even going to come close to experiencing any of the pain that is caused by any of these issues. And when they talk to people about these things, they need to keep that in check. They need to keep their elitism in check.
Changing the page,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
just for a minute,
End of rant.
just for a minute.
Yes.
The only war we hear about on TV is the war that's happening in Israel. There are two other wars going on. Sudan's having a war.
Yep.
And good old Ukraine.
Ukraine. Yep.
Putin now has North Korean army helping him.
Just because he couldn't get enough.
Gee, what a shock.
Of his own.
I'm
What a
like,
shock.
Because of how many have been killed.
wow. Now,
What a
the big
shock.
bad.
This is
since,
bringing in a
since I was in
war.
grammar school, the big bad bear was Russia. Russia, they're
Oh, yeah.
powerful. We need to. Russia is fighting a little dinky country that's attached to it, okay? And they don't have enough army to fight them. They have to borrow troops from North Korea. And I heard this on European news. I didn't hear it on American news. How did you find out about it, Ev?
It was on one of the Google articles that came
Okay.
across. And it was
So Korean forces.
like the BBC. It was a European.
Right.
I'll see if I can find it again.
No, I believe you.
I think I got it from BBC. I think that's the source I got it from.
Well, however, is there anything else, Vivian, on the dog park?
Yeah,
No,
talking-
we're gonna keep on keeping on, and the people that love the park will continue to love the park, and,
Yeah, I'd like to
I
have
mean-
some updates as regarding this lighting thing, because I find some of it interesting considering the
I want Vivian to put
players.
her insurance hat on in a minute.
Yeah, that was a
Okay, but I want to make sure that we talk about the fundraiser for the lights,
Okay,
for the tree lighting ceremony. Is that okay?
Do it, go right
Okay.
ahead.
Okay.
So that's the next topic, unless you think that there's another topic that we have.
Then you can talk about insurance. Go ahead.
Okay,
All right.
yep, Holiday Decorating Committee is in the middle of doing their October calendar raffle. We're about halfway through. We've got a lot of different activities already set up for the Prelude. The Prelude will be held on December 1st from 4 to 6 in the Town Village Center and the Town Common. We'll have a horse-drawn carriage, we'll have a couple of tractor rides, we have our DJ, we have some performances up on the stage that'll be in front of the CCA. They're working out all the details for that. We'll have some people doing table events scattered about the place. We'll have Santa.
Gotta have Santa.
It's coming together. It's a lot of work.
How much money typically do you think you're going to have to raise for something like this?
I usually put an estimate of about 3,600.
Okay.
How close are you?
I mean, the calendar raffles probably raised about 700. We had some money left over from last year. That will be depleted this year, so we'll have to continue to fundraise and things like that.
All right, so the town doesn't
And-
fund any of this.
I guess there's a small account with the recreation department that will help fund some of this.
And then, of course, you get
The
assistance.
big boon
Yeah.
for us this year was that Trinity Pride Star sponsored the horse-drawn carriages
Oh, good.
for us.
Good.
That was a $1,600 nut right off my plate. So I was
Perfect.
psyched. Cannot thank the town manager enough for helping me out with that.
Yeah,
That's good.
sponsorships are good if they want to advertise.
That's what
Yes.
that's what the parade committee does. I mean, most of our funding comes from that kind of thing, the sale of the banners plus the sponsorships.
That's
It's big.
been tricky because,
it's
I
big.
mean, the businesses just simply can't afford to do as many sponsorships as they're being asked to do.
They're squeezed, yeah, it's not like 10 years ago. You're
I
right,
have
you're
not been
right.
able to sell one wagon bag of banner this year,
Really?
so
Yeah, that's too
Trinity coming forward was huge, and I can't thank them enough. But, I mean, people are doing what they can. The event itself, a lot of people donate to it that night. We also have Old Mill House that's doing their artisan fair, so that's a draw. And if you have a table event that you want to do, similar to like what was done at Fall Fest this year, by all means, give me a call, give me an email. My number is 978-973-9596, or you can,
Three times.
Two more
Yeah.
times slowly.
Yeah, slowly.
oh, okay, 978 973 9596,
One more time.
One more time.
978 973 9596.
Perfect.
Or you can email me at, here's a good one. S is in Sam, Q is in Queen, UEKERS 601@yahoo.com. Or just give the town manager's office a call.
There you go. That's probably the easiest thing.
It's
to
the
do.
most popular place to go.
Right.
There you go. So it's coming along. Hopefully the weather will be awesome this year to make up for last
Oh,
year.
last year was awful.
Last year was awful. I mean, there's still people that are mad about that,
Yep.
but when you're talking hail,
Time to get
I'm
over it,
sorry,
folks.
it's just not worth it. People coming in from the highway.
You made the right call, Vivian. You have nothing to apologize for.
It was sad. It was hard. And like I say, hopefully the gods will be smiling on us and
Yep.
we'll have a great year this year.
Good. So what about the insurance business? How's
No,
that going?
Vivian, give me your phone number again, 978?
Yep, 973-9596
And your email?
is SQUEKERS 601 @
That's an interesting email address.
Squeaker.
.com or net?
yahoo.com.
Well,
Oops.
O-N.
See,
O-M.
there you go.
Thank
Perfect.
you. So,
Okay,
yes, if you want to
insurance.
be a part of the prelude, by all means, give me a shout.
People are belly aching to me.
Insurance, the whole industry has lost their mind. That's all I can
Okay.
say about that.
There you
The
go.
increases are crazy.
Insurance premiums going up 40% on
The
health
underwrite,
insurance.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, oh, it's awful.
Health insurance.
It's awful.
On homeowners insurance, I'm told that the corporate lawyer companies, I don't want to say Morgan & Morgan because I don't want them after me, but these gigantic lawyer companies are raking the insurance companies over the coals, getting fabulous awards from juries.
And who pays for that?
And what we do.
Ultimately, we all
Exactly.
do. That's the whole
So
concept
when you're
behind
injured,
it.
when you're injured, Sam, do you want to take $10 or $10,000?
Well, I want to get the most I can, obviously.
Okay, so.
That's
That's
the whole-
not going away.
Can you speak to that, Vivian? What is the insurance, the insurance industry has to get better in court than they have been. Usually, well,
I
Billy,
mean, yeah.
he's always been our lawyer. Billy's got this. And I only know one insurance guy, and he's a tiger, that he's an insurance lawyer, and he's a tiger. He's a smart guy. And
But they're watching it very
He kind of
closely
fueled
as
this
are the
idea in my head.
reinsurance companies.
Well, let me offer something to think about here. I think when the case gets to court, and they make a case that the person is injured and whatever, and the facts support that, and the jury just makes the award, I think the jury does not think in terms of, gee, whatever this award is that we give is ultimately going to be paid for by us, the people who buy insurance. They don't think that way.
No.
They think this big, rich company is going to pay out, so who cares? I think that is
Both are true.
That is the attitude of
Both are true.
the jury.
But the insurance
ultimately-
companies have the biggest buildings.
As an accountant for 43 years, folks, I can tell you, there's no such thing as a business cost. Because whatever the cost is to the business, the end consumer pays,
well,
okay?
the insurance operators, the insurance companies, the people working on the top floor make too much money.
That may be, John, but there are not enough of them really to make that dent. The bottom line is that whatever the cost is, even if you eliminated all those high-paid executives, whatever that additional cost is still going to be passed on to the customer.
Yes.
Okay? All right, so when you're sitting on the jury, try to make a fair decision, but
Well, it
please...
goes beyond what
But
goes-
please bear in mind that if you're buying insurance from that company, your premium will go up as a result of these...
Hypothetically, okay, I run over your foot with my car. And you're suing my insurance company. And your lawyer says to the insurance company, your chief executive officer, what was his salary last year? And they're gonna answer the question, well, he made $40 million. Okay, and you wanna give Sam, whose foot has been crushed, 25 cents. And your chief executive officer is making $40 million a year.
And that's
I think
only
you
one
need a bigger
facet
award.
of the situation. You
Go
also
ahead,
got
Jeff, sorry. I was
Okay.
talking, I didn't hear you. Say
But my question to you is, okay, let's follow that through to its logical conclusion. Let's take every executive in the big insurance company that makes more than $400,000 a year. Let's just fire them all, they're gone. Now the corporation does not have that expense, okay?
Well,
Wait a minute, let me finish the thought.
Go ahead.
That corporation now does not have the expense of excessive executive compensation. If they take all that money they save and pass it down amongst all of their customers, how much is that going to lower an average person's insurance?
Not much,
Not much. That's my point.
It'll lower
okay?
the settlement.
because you still got the claims coming in. You got 'em coming in on the
The
property
executive
side, the
salary of
liability,
any big
everything.
company, the executive salaries of any big company are not a major cost component of the company doing business. That's my point, okay? So it's the same argument that we hear about income taxes, okay? Well, if we tax the richest people more money, guess what? That savings is not going to be passed down to the average taxpayer because there aren't enough of those people to make a difference, is what I'm saying. And the same thing is true in the corporate environment.
Well, when
I
you,
agree, but in the presentation, in the trial of me running over your foot, when they ask, what is the salary of the chief executive officer? It's 400 grand a year. Now you can say, well, okay, we'll give Sam 400 grand instead of giving him 10 million.
Listen, if I were the attorney, that's a brilliant strategy because they're playing on the emotions of the jury, so it works. But again, we have to be careful, that's all I'm saying. I mean, you can't allow yourself to be totally guided by the emotional argument, but unfortunately, most people are, and it's very effective. And if I were the attorney, I'd do the same thing, because the lawyer's doing his job. He's doing his job.
Yeah, but when you start to talk
Yep.
about government and taxing those that have a whole lot, and they talk about their fair share, we're not going to get into just trying to have them define, well, what does fair share mean, because they can't define it.
I can
But
define it.
anymore-
All you have to do is go up on the Internal Revenue Service website, and you will get the statistics. So for 2022, the top 1% of income earners in this country paid 42% of the income tax. So don't tell me you can't get the numbers. The IRS publishes the numbers,
Okay,
okay?
let's turn to health
That's not
insurance.
where I was.
All
That's
right.
what I was
Health
saying.
insurance.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
One of
That
my
gets me
proposals-
aggravated.
One of my
No,
friends,
that's not
a
what I meant.
retiree from municipality,
Yes.
gets his health insurance because of his retirement. His premium just went up 40%.
I had that conversation with our town manager last week. He's very concerned this is going to seriously impact municipal budgets for the upcoming year because they haven't planned for a 40% increase.
Because we,
You're going to hear more about this. Your city council's going to be talking about it.
Well, I'm just
Okay.
putting it out there that
Yep.
the money doesn't grow on trees.
No, it does
The government
not.
seems to think money grows on trees.
No, it does not.
well, we're beginning to get the bills on house insurance
I
and
just got
car
mine.
insurance. And some are bundled and some are separate. I got to figure out how to bundle them all. But anyway, I haven't got that far yet. But even so, the one bill I recently got, even though it's an old car, the insurance went up.
Sure.
Usually, when you have an older vehicle, the insurance goes down, just like excise tax.
No, because it's based on the value of the asset,
Right,
which is
but the
car.
thing is that I'm noticing that those bills are beginning to increase too. Plus, in the state of Florida, they canceled
Oh, yeah, because of the,
so many
Yeah.
of their policies. I had a friend of mine that isn't even in the hurricane area in Jacksonville, and he said that they canceled one of his policies for his house.
You know how many companies have gone bankrupt in
Well,
Florida?
you know what? I was just going to ask
Well,
you
I want
that
Vivian to
question.
speak. When you
Yeah, just
finish your
gonna-
point, Sam.
Going to ask you, I was going to ask Vivian that question, so you started. So there are insurance companies that actually do lose money
Oh, yes.
and go out of business and go bankrupt because of the claims.
Expensive claims.
Because of the claims that
There's
come
no
in.
way you can absorb them
Right,
all.
yeah, you can't absorb them, right. So even if you took the high salaries of all the executives in insurance companies, it still isn't enough to
Nope.
cover, so that's the point.
They
So-
exhaust their reinsurance
So let me ask,
policies.
before we run out of time, I got a question for
done.
you. We have a hypothetical terrible hurricane in our region. Is there a possibility? Is there a strong possibility, slim possibility in your mind? And you don't have to back it up with any information, I just want your opinion, that the insurance company that insures our properties are going to fail and go bankrupt?
In this area,
In your mind,
yeah, in the Lowell area,
in Massachusetts?
yeah.
Is there a possibility? Of course there is.
Is there a
Geico was
so
pulled
now I'll
out
say,
of
is there
14
a,
states because of the bad claims experience.
I'll change
they
the
had.
question, is there a likelihood?
A likelihood? Probably not, because the insurance department does a pretty good job of monitoring these companies,
You
and they
mean-
will put them
you
on
mean
notice.
State,
Yeah,
okay.
Need
the
like
state
them.
insurance
Because of the
department.
regulation that Massachusetts provides.
Yeah.
So that provides, in your opinion, a level of security.
And also, all of these
Okay.
companies have to pay into a fund if that does happen to a company.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because
Yep.
they, if there's a claim, they still want to be paid.
What are our thoughts on southern New Hampshire? Same hurricane, takes away Nashua. The insurance companies in New Hampshire have less regulations than Massachusetts.
Yeah, see, I
Any
don't
thoughts?
know.
And if you don't have any thoughts, I respect. You
I
can't
have a
know it.
thought, because I have property up there.
Okay, so you know, what's the
So as
answer?
far as my homeowner's insurance Again, it depends on what company you have it with.
Exactly, and how vested are
And
they
then,
in that neighborhood?
yes, and also, and what their resources are, how many
Right.
claims they've had in a given year. And then the other part is, how is your policy written? So obviously, if you want to have flood insurance, if you have a policy that doesn't include it, you have to make sure that's in there. You should be talking.
99.9% of all homeowners' policies exclude flood.
And earthquake.
And
Earthquake
mold.
you can buy.
And there's
You
a
can buy the coverage
Yes,
for
you can,
earthquake.
and the
but not
deductible is
flood.
like $8,000,
But
or
you
at least it
can't
was
buy-
30 years
You
ago.
can't buy the flood insurance generally, is that
Yeah,
true?
you can.
Oh,
You can go through NFIP, you can go through
Okay.
some of these excess
You can buy
lines
almost any kind of
carriers.
Gotta be
insurance.
It's there.
expensive. Gotta be expensive, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It
with
depends
that
on where you are.
particular
So, same
thing, I
question.
have to buy
How
everything.
no,
Go ahead,
I know enough
to be dangerous.
legal stuff to be dangerous,
There you
okay?
go.
We all do.
Evelyn's Insurance Company is a separate corporation in New Hampshire as it is in Massachusetts. Same name, but it's a separate corporation. So I'm wondering how healthy, because we do have a fair amount of New Hampshire audience, how healthy are the laws in New Hampshire to protect its citizenry?
Good question.
Every state is different. Every state has their own insurance department.
Right.
Well,
And,
every state has different laws and different responsibilities.
but one of the
Thanks, Vivian.
answers, because we're going to run out of time, one of the answers to any kind of insurance thing is, you have Florida that has been hit quite a bit. And so the drain on any of the resources
That killed.
is killing the companies. In Massachusetts, as far as weather-related events, we have less of it.
Right.
We have a lot, unless you live on the coast.
Last year was a tough year for weather-related stuff.
Was that because of what was on the coast?
No, I mean, we had the microburst in Chelmsford. We've got tornadoes out in the western part of the state. So we are starting to see an uptick in weather-related claims. And carriers are looking at that going, okay, can we share the burden of these claims and have people self-insure more of their exposure just to keep us afloat?
So self-insure means higher deductible.
Right,
Okay,
or just entire exclusions.
right.
Right, and my premium keeps going up and I'm not making any claims. The other
It's
part,
frustrating.
and the other part is,
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
and the other part about that is that if you do make a claim, then your premiums either go sky high or they decide they're going to cancel
Oh,
your
right,
your
exactly.
thing. So you can pay thousands of dollars into something over a great, basically what you're doing is you're betting the odds that you're going to have a problem that you can't
And the
pay
insurance
for.
company is saying, no, you're not. Yeah, exactly.
Time is short. Tomorrow City Life, Cliff Krieger's the host. Eileen Del Rossi's going to be here, and Greg Pappas is going to be. That's tomorrow City Life. Time is
Oh,
short.
no, this last 2 years.
Well,
have
I'm
been
hoping that
tough.
maybe next week Glenn can
Since
come on, we'll talk a little bit
89.
more about the election. I think that a lot of people may have already voted. And we want to thank Vivian for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, we kind of kept some of your discussion to a minimum because we know we don't want you coughing or anything.
Yeah.
However, we appreciate your expertise and all the information that you've given to us. And I hope, people can, run with that, and especially with the insurance piece, because that's always fascinating. So we hope, thank you very much, Sam, getting up extra
Promise
early.
it'll get better.
Well, you can only hope. Everybody stay safe, enjoy your foliage, and be careful about all those crazy drivers out there. And
we'll see you
we'll see you next
Okay.
week.
Thanks for watching.